let me make sure that this looks good. Okay, cool. So Kaycee, tell me like the name of your company and then what you do. We were talking a little bit about it before, and you were on a roll. So I hope I can get all of that the same. But yeah, so tell me a little bit about what you do.
So I own a social media marketing company. It's called The Concrete Room, and I mean it's pretty self-explanatory, but social media marketing, obviously we know that businesses right now, they need to be on social media. They need to be active, and I got into it almost 5 years ago. So right around when businesses were using social media, kind of, but not, they weren't 100% on it yet. It was more just Facebook and kind of that transition into more businesses being active on social media. And so I got into it right around then and been doing that ever since.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Where did you come up with the name The Concrete Room? I have sometimes I ask people about the name, but sometimes I don't. It's cool.
It's different for sure.
Yeah.
So when I very first started out, I just branded it. It was Kaycee Inc. basically. Like it was just just me, my name. And then as I started to hire people, I was like, I need to have an actual name so that they're not, so and so with Kaycee. It just sounded weird. So anyway, me and a few of my employees were sitting around one day. I used to rent a studio space in Kaysville, and we were trying to brainstorm, coming up with different names, and the floor of where we were it's concrete. And one of the girls walks in and she looks at us and she's like, what about the concrete room? And we kind of all look around and then we look at the definition of concrete, and I mean obviously there's different, what it is self-explanatory, but basically how it came about was, and how we tied it to the social media, is that you have to have that foundation for your business. You've got to have a good, strong social media presence in order to get your brand out there, to get in front of your right audience, things like that. So it just kind of worked, and then the domain was available, which that's always a tricky one. So, but yeah, that's how the name came about. So
that's pretty sweet, and it's cool that the domain was available, because a lot of people don't realize that. You come up with a name and it's not available. And then you're like, gotta change your website name or whatever. That's nuts. So, and I follow you on social media. I followed you on Instagram for a while, because I've seen the people that you work with. But what made you want to get into like social media marketing, especially like today? Like it's a pretty, something I didn't say when we were talking earlier. For like business owners, it can be sometimes difficult to track ROI, right? It's there. You can do it, but I'm an accountant, so I'm always like, it's always a tough one. So like, why did you get into it, and how did it grow?
Yeah, so I worked at, and it's always interesting and funny to see people's reaction when I tell them my history of where I've worked, but I actually worked at Victoria's Secret as a brand manager for 5-6 years, and that's really where I started to get I started paying close attention to detail. I started kind of getting that eye for marketing, and then looking at the artistic side of things in that way, and then looking at the growth, and if I change it this way, so I kind of started, that's kind of where it all started, the marketing eye. And then when I left there, I actually started working for, I will leave it nameless, I started working for a company in Bountiful, and I was there for 2 years, and I'm not gonna lie, it was complete hell. It was tough, but anyway, I was there for 2 years, and I'm grateful for that experience, because what I did for them was their social media marketing, just them though, no one else, and it was eye-opening. In doing that and learning about social media and having that experience, I started researching the hell out of just different marketing approaches and social media, and just, for them really, but then it evolved and turned into there are so many businesses out there that need this, that need someone to come in and help, do their social media entirely, so that they don't have to worry about it. Because at that point, it was, that's kind of when social media started, like I said, that it was businesses began to kind of grow on social media. And so, anyway, I worked there, and I kept telling myself, okay, I'm just going to I'll get 4 clients. If I can get 4 clients under my belt, then I'll quit. Well, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was over the weekend. I came into work on a Monday. I'm sitting there at my desk, and I look at my computer, and I just start laughing. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? I just started laughing. And I went in and I put my 2 weeks notice in, and I haven't looked back since. I could not, as I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can't even, I just knew at that moment, I'm like, sink or swim, I'm going to swim.
Yeah.
So I'm not,
you gotta roll.
I gotta roll.
Yeah.
And from there, I basically, I mean, I had been already talking to different friends that were business owners, things like that, talking to them about their social media. And so really from there, just having different introductions that way, cold calling, things like that in the very beginning.
Sure.
And within that first month, I had 5 clients. So
hey,
it just like,
good for you.
I mean, it worked my ass off, right? But it all worked out, and ever since it's just been growing.
Yeah.
So
good. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
No, I love those stories, and that's why I like to bring on these people. I read a post the other day when I was on LinkedIn, and it was talking about how people were trying to be like, they were trying to be the next Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett's and all these things. But there's 100 multimillionaires that live on their block that they'll never talk to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And those are the stories that I like, because like, okay, I'm not saying you're not going to be Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett and things like that, but the people who live right down the street, who live next door, like, it'd be real hard for you to get a meeting with Jeff Bezos, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I love these stories because it shows people, like, in your own neighborhood, there's people who, you didn't have to go to a Tony Robbins seminar to hear, like, burn the ships. Like, there's someone right next door who did it.
Exactly. And that, I mean, I've been really fortunate in that way to have been, had the opportunity to meet different business owners that have really helped me along the way. Because as a business owner, cool. I think it's safe to say that we all struggle. I mean, I don't think it really matters how long you've been in business or a business owner. Things happen. You're gonna you're gonna have losses. You're gonna have the like late nights. You're gonna have the defeat, things like that. But it's really those are the things that teach and help you get to the next step. But you can't be successful without that down. You just can't. It's just, and so for me, being able to really talk to and ask advice and opinion to different business owners that I know that have already experienced some of these things, I'm like, okay, if I can talk to someone who's actually already gone through these motions, then maybe I can, gain a different perspective or insight to course correct or do something different or things like that. So that's been a huge help for me.
Okay.
So.
I love that. And I wanted to ask this question because I don't normally ask this, but for some reason it came to my head, and so I wanted to do it. So you, you're working at this company. You didn't really like it, and you're like, I want 4 clients. Then eventually you just, burn the boats and said, I'm going to do it anyway. And you mentioned that you went to your friends.
Yeah.
How is it dealing, like, with friends and business and contracts like that?
Yeah. So, it's really interesting because I want to say the majority of even the clients I have right now, they're all really good friends. Some of them were friends prior to being, to working together, and some, I mean, eventually it just turns into really good, long-lasting friendships, really, because you get to know who they are on a different level because you're doing their social media, I'm branding them in a very authentic, real way, so I get to see that, firsthand. But it's actually funny. One of my clients, you actually, I believe, follow his page. He's the Utah House Doctors.
Yeah, I love the Utah House Doctors.
Yeah, so that's one of my clients. And anyway, Roger Jessup and I were really good friends even before, we started working together. And I remember in the very beginning, we had a conversation, and basically what we said was, business is business, friendship is friendship, and at the end of the day, when we're hanging out or if we're, hanging out as friends, we just don't talk about business. We don't, and so we kind of drew that line in the very beginning, and ever since then, we've had a great friendship as well as working relationship. So it's been good. It's been fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. Well, because I've done that too, where you have, like, you get into business with family or you get into business with friends or something like that. Yeah. And it can get kind of ugly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you've had good experiences with it.
Yeah.
And I think what you mentioned that a lot of people miss is, like, the boundaries. Like, when we're at work, we're at work. And when we're at friends, we're at friends. Yeah.
Right? As long as you set that boundary, I feel like you can really make anything work and make it happen as long as the expectation is set the same on both sides.
Cool. Have you ever had, like, a falling, like, you had a friend, you went into business and it didn't work out?
Yes.
And you were, it happened?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel that it's only happened a couple of times.
Sure. And I'm not trying to...
But really, I mean, those couple of times, it's been so it's such a learning experience. I mean, you go through those things. It's kind of what I was saying in the beginning. You know, every business owner has their ups and their downs, and they're going to have the things that, you know, they have to learn from them. And it's really how you decide to turn back around and, okay, you know, that happened, but I'm going to leave that in the past, and I'm going to continue moving forward with my goals. Because I'm not going to lie, maybe 7-8 months ago, kind of had that situation happen, and I was holding on to that for so long. I feel that I was not focusing on my goals. I wasn't focusing on growing that aspect of it, because I was so, you know, mentally trying to overcome this experience that had happened. And so I felt like once I completely left that in the past and said, okay, I'm not gonna spend my time and my energy on this anymore. There was a shift, and then I was able to really just focus on my business and me and growing the other side of it, and not. I think you just mentally have to get to that point where, okay, I'm going to learn from it, but I'm going to leave it in the past, and I'm going to continue to focus on. Otherwise, you're just that will consume you. It will consume you, and then, you know, moving forward.
Well, and it's tough too. Well, and I understand how tough it is. You know, I was working with a friend, and you know, the pandemic hit, and I was like, I got to learn how to do this by myself and figure this out. And it's tough to like still be friends and kind of break up the business.
It's definitely. I mean, it's definitely. I can say I feel like everyone at some point goes through that. I mean, even different. So I meet with a networking group every Thursday, and again, great business owners that I can, you know, ask questions, we can relate to each other. So when I was going through all of that, I was talking to a lot of them, and they were sharing experiences very, very similar. So I feel that in business, it's at some point in time, it's bound to happen, you know. Whatever it is, whether it's a falling out with another business owner or a friend or whoever it is, I think it just is kind of I don't know. It just happens.
Yeah, it does. Well, it does, and a lot of people don't realize that when they go into business. You know, if they want to jump into starting their own business or something like that, then it just happens.
It just happens.
And I say like acceptance, right? You know, because it just has to be as what it is.
Exactly. Really though. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you also mentioned that when you started your own business, like you did some cold calling, you did some things like that. Now, are you like sales? Is that something that's in your blood or what?
Yes. Well.
Okay.
Yes and no.
So sales been something that's always like been in your blood and.
Yes, so when I worked at Victoria's Secret, it was as that manager, not only did I do floor sets and marketing, branding, things like that, but I was also in charge of, you know, different parts of the day, the sales and the numbers. So I did I mean, that all kind of came about, but when I first started everything, I actually didn't have to cold call. I was in the very beginning, because a lot of it was word of mouth, and because I already knew certain people, and they were business owners, and so they introduced me to different people they knew, and I started doing theirs. And so, but when I got to the point, so how it kind of all progressed was I had 4 clients, and I was feeling good and comfortable with it. I felt like I could control everything, and then it got to the point where I'm going to try to bring on one more. So it was like increments. Like I would, I'd focus on the ones I had, and then when I felt I could take on more, because I think I'd be lying if I said I haven't, bit off more than I can chew at times. Sure. But it just adds way more stress than what it needs to be. And so I try to pace it and, okay, where am I comfortable at? And so I started to, at that point, I hired an assistant, and we were sitting there one day, and I'm just like, I think we should like add a couple new clients. And I'm like, who do we want to work with? What's an industry or a business that we want to work with that we don't have? And she sits there and she's like, well, what about a clothing boutique? Like, okay. So we got on Google, started Googling, local boutiques, and I still laugh at this because, it was just sheer coincidence, I think. But the very first person I called, I really didn't even plan what I was going to say. So how I even got words out is beyond me, because I was like, I've never really cold called before. That was a new experience. Yeah. And so it was more just winging it. And so we're sitting there, and I don't even remember what I said. I set a meeting, though, with her, and that same week, and she ended up signing, and I had her as a client for 2 years. And so it was kind of crazy how it all worked out.
That's sweet,
so we were, it's always something that we would laugh about that, I had that one. But ever since then, I am, the fun and cool thing about what I do is that, in the very beginning, I'll be honest, I didn't even have a social media page myself because I was so busy with all my clients' pages and growing theirs that I'm not going to put worry and stress into my own page. Like, I don't need that or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, eventually it turned into, well, if here you are educating people on why they need to be on social media, you should probably be on social media.
Probably be on social media.
So I started my page, but you'd be surprised at how many people really, my marketing for me is by doing a good job for my clients. Because people see that, and I mean, people can always tell when there's a change or a shift in someone's social media, especially with clients that either haven't been active or have not been consistent with it, things like that. And so that was a lot of how my business started to grow was, people would follow, let's say, Roger's page, and hey, dude, who's doing your social media? It looks awesome. And so that was a good introduction to different people. Oh, here, it's this, here's her name and number, whatever. And so that was, for me, that's still to this day how I've kind of always looked at it. If I do a good job for my clients, it shows, and that is more of a marketing for me than anything. I mean, I have my own pages, yes, but more so just people seeing my clients and things like that.
Well, and I think it's good though. Like, I found your page. I think it was actually through the Utah House Doctors.
Oh, really?
Because I tried to reach out to them and set up a podcast with them.
Oh, I can make that happen.
Yeah. All right, well, you need to do it. Because I think I reached out to them, but they're busy.
Yeah.
And so, which is fine. Like, I'm not I don't take anything personally, especially when we're doing stuff like this. Like, I'm dealing with business owners who got lives, and so if I have to be like, and they got businesses and lives. Yeah. But I did find your page through them, and so. But because I liked some of their stuff, I was like, oh yeah, they're doing some pretty cool things up there, and I like the Utah House Doctors. Yeah. I like that whole branding idea. Yeah. They're doing some cool stuff.
They are.
And one of them owns a gym, right?
Yes. So yes. So Jake Wiseman, he and his wife own Lyft at Station Park or Franklin Station or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
But but they've had that for a couple years now, I want to say.
Cool.
So Jake is new to the Utah House Doctors. Okay. But he and his wife do that. She's there more full time than he is, but because he doing the whole real estate thing on top of it. But yeah.
Well, that's cool. I like that. So how does it feel to navigate through a profession, especially here in Utah, that is pretty heavily influenced? Like, there's a lot of how do you feel when you hear somebody like, I'm a social media marketer, and then you're like, probably not, right? You know what I mean? Like, how do you feel navigating through an industry like that?
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing a really good job. Yeah. I just want to know kind of how you feel when it's that saturated.
No, absolutely. So this is my big thing, and I feel like, especially the world that we live in today, it's really hard not to compare yourself or your business or your success to other people. Mm-hmm. And so something that I've always really, really tried to focus on is to really not focus on what anyone else is doing. And I know that sounds weird, but I just feel like it can consume you. And then you're going to feel like you can't do it or that you shouldn't do it because someone else is doing it better. I feel like everyone has different qualities, different strengths. And so for me, and what I do is so different in a sense that, I mean, like I said earlier, anyone can post a post, right? I mean, people can, anyone can join social media, it's free, and they can make a post, and that's fine. But when you're doing it strategically and you're doing it with actual goals in mind and to make that sell, that's when it's different. It's all the research with the hashtags and best time to post and looking at the insights and really being strategic with your content calendar. And that's something that I definitely, I mean, that's a lot of my focus. And so, yes, there are other social media people out there, which it's fantastic, but I try not to really focus too much on what they're all doing. I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, it's good because there's a lot of people who, will listen to this interview who've always wanted to start a business. And, I get people like that who they talk to me. I told them I started a podcast and they're like, that would be so cool to start one, but there's like a million podcasts out there, right? And I tell them the same thing. I'm like, well, you can't really. You can't pay attention to all that because you'll never start. If you do that,
exactly. Right? Like you can't. And I think it's important. So I remember a while back, one of my best friends, we were having a conversation, and she said, I need to take a serious break from social media. And she was explaining it to me. And I get social media is very, very different when it's for personal use versus business use. Yeah. There is such a big difference. And so that's one of the things that a lot of my clients, if I meet with someone and they're like, well, we don't like social media because I don't want to post when I'm eating for lunch. I don't want to watch. I'm like, that's completely different. You don't have to be active on your personal page, but when it comes to your business, that's a different story. But anyway, I was talking to my friend, and she was saying how she just doesn't feel good when she's on there. She feels like she doesn't have enough, or her closet's not deep enough, or all those insecurities and things that you feel sometimes when you're strolling on social media. And I sat there and I said, why are you following those pages? Why? And she's like, well, that's a good question. I don't know. And I'm like, you don't have to follow, and I've kind of always thought that. If something, for me personally, on social media, if it's not making me laugh or be happy or inspired or motivated, I don't follow it. I just don't.
Right.
And I feel like that's where a lot of people look at social media in a negative way, when in reality, you don't have to.
Yeah,
you can control that to some extent, know.
Right.
And so that helps a lot with not, I guess, looking too far into the feeling like, oh, well, they're more successful, or and I mean, that's a lot of what I even educate my clients on, and what I try to remember myself is that everybody's brand is different. Everybody's as long as you're being you and you're being authentic, and your audience can tell. I mean, people can smell shit from a mile away if you're not being authentic and real,
Yeah.
And so that's ultimately what drives that success, is when I can kind of get someone to break out of their shell, be who they are, be authentic, and that will naturally draw your audience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people miss that. They try to manufacture followers, right? When it's just like, dude, like, if you build it, they will come. Like, kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like,
yes, absolutely.
Like if you're on there and you're active and you engage with people, like it just happens. So I really like that, because a lot of people, I get a lot of those questions. I've been doing this podcast for 4 or 5 months. And people will come out of the woodwork and be like, I really like who you interviewed, but I could just never do that. And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. I was in an interview with them, and they look just like us, and they talk just like us, and you know what I mean. They just figured out how to set boundaries in their life and make things work like that.
Absolutely.
I think that's a huge plus, and I really like that you said that, because a lot of people also don't realize that when you're in business, that a lot of the principles that run life run business.
Absolutely.
Making boundaries. Not comparing yourself to other people.
Absolutely.
Staying in your lane.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like there's always different ways to go about it. I mean, there's always different, I'm not going to say I've never been, there's always, even now, sometimes I feel doubt, or, oh man, can I really do this? And for me, it was always, I just want to hit that 5-year mark. And I know that sounds silly, but there was that statistic once, hey, if you don't make it 5 years, you're not going to make it as a business owner, which is silly. But that 5 years always kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And I remember maybe probably 2 years in, I was having a problem with a client, and I was just like doubting myself entirely, just completely doubting myself. And I called a friend, and he said, listen, Kaycee, you can do this if you want to, but if you're going to tell yourself that you can't, or you shouldn't be, then but look at all the positives, look at all of the success. Don't let this one failure or whatever have that much of a setback. You need to look at all of these other successes that you've had and continue to have. And he said, and I'll never forget this, he said, if every day you're showing up to work and you're putting in that work and you're working hard and you're showing up every day, you will be successful. But it doesn't it's not just going to happen. And I never had that assumption or thought that it was just going to happen, but sometimes those failures, I think we all do that though, right? We all look at the negative, and it's hard to say, okay, yes, that happened. However, look at all the good things that have come from it, or the good things that are here aside from that negative experience or whatever it was. So I feel that is you just can't focus on those things. You gotta. I know it's so hard, but anyone can do it. But it's a matter of if they're going to actually put forth the effort and the action, you know, instead of just talk about it.
Yeah, I love that, because we do say that, right? Like, anybody can do it, but you have to do it.
You have to do it. You got to work hard. It doesn't just go right to business and success, and you have to put those hours in. That's just a part of it.
I like that. Well, that's always a question I ask too. You know, how do you deal with like the doubt and the setbacks? And you just kind of accept it, like, because you got to go into business. You got to go, and I tell people that too. And I'm sure you tell social media people, like you have the conversation, I'm sure, with your people who you do content with. Like, look, we're not going to get 1 million followers. Like,
no, takes time.
You know, we might lose some when we start posting like authenticity.
Yeah, really though. I mean, it's that's definitely a thing. And something that you had mentioned earlier was it can be difficult for businesses to track ROI. And I remember a while back, I had a client that was kind of asking questions like that, and the biggest thing with social media is that it does take time. It takes time to grow that following. It takes time to see that return on investment. I mean, you've got to be really consistent with everything and really strategic with things to have that growth happen. However, the more consistent you are with it, it will happen. I mean, I've seen crazy, I look at it and I go, okay, well, if Roger can sell a house on social media, and then yes, you can, sell this product, and you can do these things, and you can have people pick up the phone and call you to use your, plumbing business or whatever it is, type of thing. So it just takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. So who or what or how was your inspiration for, the outlet that you have on business and the outlet that you have on life?
You know what? I've always been a pretty positive person.
Yeah.
But I would have to, I don't know I can't really pinpoint, I don't think, one specific thing or person. I feel that in my life, I've just learned with every experience I've gone through.
Yeah.
And just like anyone else, it's your mindset and what you're choosing to focus on. And I do a lot of reading, things like that, but I would have to say a lot of it is just, you gotta have to set your mind. Like, you just have to be, I feel like, in a healthy mental, emotional state to really be able to say, okay, I'm gonna take the positive from this and grow from it, learn from it, and let go of the bullshit.
Well, you have to. Yeah,
you have to.
Because that's where a lot of people don't. That's where a lot of people fall off.
It's hard.
They get that. And I know it's like, I'll bring business owners on and we'll talk a lot about their business, and then we'll kind of float off onto these cool, these really cool parts that we get when we do a 45-minute interview. Because you can do I can ask you the questions and our interview can last 20 minutes. I don't want that, because there's something cool about being able to show people like a podcast that you were on or something, and they get to hear you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is really cool. It wasn't like this gold paved road, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we had to do it our own. So it's really fun. But how do you like to read? Like, what are some of your favorite books?
Oh, man. So, I knew you were going to ask me that damn question. And I'm terrible with, the names of them all, because a lot of them are just self-help books. I think there's, what's that one? Crap. I think it says the F word, so I will not say that. But it's in the title, and it's basically...
I got both of them.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about?
The subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
okay.
Everything is fuck.
Yes. So, yes. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. There's your little wall of books there.
Yeah.
But a lot of things like that. And I started kind of doing this meditation thing, and one of the books it's called Mindset, and it basically talks about a lot of the psychology of the mindset and, meditation and the things that can come from it and, the healthy benefits of it, things like that. So, really just, I feel like little things like that help and go a long way. It really helps you gain a different perspective. And for me, I think a lot of people, it's good to talk about the good, it really is, but it's also not, let's all be realistic and real here. Starting a business or doing anything new in your life, it's damn hard. It's not, it's going to take that grit and grind and tenacity to really get it going, but it's kind of looking at that hearing the stories of people failing, not that we like hearing that, but it's good to know that we're not alone in that. It's good to know that, oh, hey, I've been in business for 5 years, but, so-and-so's been in business for 20, and he still or she still has, days where she feels like, oh crap, can I do this? Or, you know, this happened, and this is how I overcame it. So it's good to hear people be realistic with it. And instead of just saying, oh yeah, everything's great, everything's wonderful, and you know, because as much as we want to think that, there's also that we are to that point and get to that point because of the shit that we go through, right?
Well, and because of like, that book, Mark Manson's first book, The Subtle Art, changed my life.
I know.
It was awesome.
I love that book.
Yeah.
And so him telling his story the way that he did, it was eye-opening to me. Yeah. It really was. And so I just feel like hearing different people's, I don't want to say struggle, but in a sense that's kind of, you know, it helps you understand that you're human. Everyone's human, and it's okay to have setbacks. It's okay to have failures, and you should. I mean, that's really what is going to get you to the next part of the success.
Right. People should remember it's not if, it's when.
Yes,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? It
really is.
Yeah, it's not if, it's when. But one of the things I liked in there, because I'm the same way. I'm a very pragmatic person. But I feel like, you know, I have to do things for me. And I think that's the other thing, you know, when you're talking about the certain things, you know, the trials that we hear people go through, I don't think they're shared enough, to be honest with you, because it's okay. Like,
it's okay.
Because I'll tell people stories about when I failed, you know. I've had bad podcast, like, dude, I left my first podcast up even though it was horrible, you know, because like you should hear it.
You should hear it.
Yeah, you should hear it. Like, dude, we do these cool interviews and I do these cool things and I put stuff out there knowing that this might be a bad idea. But like, you don't know either.
Yeah.
So you just gotta do it.
You just gotta do it.
You just gotta run out there.
Yeah.
So I like that. So what are some of the things, now to kind of go into like maybe an industry question for you, like what are some of like the biggest myths that go into like social media marketing?
Oh, well.
Because I'm sure you hear them. Like, I'm sure those are some of the objections that you get when you...
A lot of them are, you know, social media doesn't work for me. Social media isn't real. I don't want to. I don't have to pay a blogger to post or whatever, and you know, I don't want to have to pay someone to highlight me or whatever types of things, you know. But really, more times than not, it's people. I hear this all the time, which is so crazy to me. But it's, well, I hate social media because I don't like seeing someone post this, and again, that goes back to personal use of social media. And so that's where really I think people have they don't see the business side versus the personal use of social media and how different the two are, and how, like I was saying earlier, I think before you started the podcast, was social media can be a huge tool for your business, but it can also be just as hurtful for your business, depending on how you're using it.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're not using it in the right way, and you're not using it as the powerful tool, which it can and is, it really is going to be a detriment to your business instead of a helpful tool. So that, I think, is one of the biggest ones. People just don't think it works. They don't think it works, and they don't. That's really just the biggest one, I would have to say. Yeah, that people just. How do you try to convince them? How do you overcome it? Because like it's kind of, well, it's so weird, man. You're like, people say it doesn't work, but you know it works, right? Like where did you find your last shirt? It was probably on social media, man. Probably you saw someone wearing it. Dude. Exactly. You know what I mean? Exactly. And that's something that I always love to ask too is. When people kind of start talking about things, all, you know, hey, so where did you get that, or where did you see that? And 9 times out of 10, it's social media, and it's like, well, there's your answer right there. You know, that's where you're gonna find. That's where people are gonna find you. Nowadays, it's interesting too, and something I say to people all the time is, social media is basically word of mouth marketing. Social media, and so take how people used to market their business, which was through newspaper, mailers, TV commercials, like radio commercials, things like that. Well, now that was how people marketed themselves back then. You have to look at social media the same exact way. It's basically those things, but now it's through social media. But it's like, that's your word of mouth marketing right there. If I see that you are following so-and-so, and I trust you, and you like that page, I already trust that page more than I would if I didn't have anybody that I knew that was following them already. So it really helps grow that trust and build that trust to where, because again, I think people are so hesitant with social media because well, are they lying? Is it true? Is it not? You know, how real is this really? Or am I going to get screwed over when I call this plumber instead of this one? You know what I mean? Like everybody's hesitant that way. But if I see that one of my friends that I already trust and know likes your page, then I instantly, automatically am going to say, oh, okay, well, I trust her, so I'm going to trust this page or this person or whatever it is. So in a way, it's word of mouth marketing.
Yeah,
right?
well, no, I mean, it is, because I look and see, like, whenever I need something, like, that's what I'll do. I'll look at other people's reviews. I'll ask my friends. I'll look at their stuff before I
pull the trigger on
call
it.
somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so true. Well, and that's such a contradictory myth too, right? Because you're like, it doesn't work, but it does work.
You buy stuff from it all the time.
You gotta do it. So, you gotta be kind of gentle with that, though, right? Telling people that you're wrong. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, and it's always fun too when people see that success. It's that ultimately is what drives me and motivates me. I think I get more excited, more so than my clients do, when I see that success come to their page, because I mean, I love seeing that and showing them that, hey, this is working. And that's again why I have those monthly reviews outside of content that is really going through to say, okay, here's all the insights and analytics of the last month.
Right.
So they can see the progress and they see that it's working, because numbers don't lie, right? And if they're there, they're there. And so that's something I always make sure to show them and to point out the successes, so that they, you know, can see those. But it takes time. It takes time to grow a page. It takes time to grow your business and to brand who you are and whatnot. So
it does. Well, and you'll change too, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So let me ask you this. When you're on social media, so as a business owner, right? So if you're talking to a business owner about social media and you're telling them, so what kind of indicators are most important to a business owner on social media?
Well, I guess rephrase the question. Indicators? What do you mean?
So like performance indicators. So like if you were So if you were telling a business owner, maybe we've been doing Facebook for 5 months. Maybe we haven't really gotten a sale from it, but we're good in other places.
Yeah. So when I first meet with a client, one of the questions that I go over, so it's basically a competitive analysis is kind of how I start things out. Okay. So I do a full-on, I look at what they currently have on their social media, you know, what's working, what's not, look at their back end. But then I also look at a few of their competitors. I do a lot of research with the industry that they're in and put together basically a game plan. And in that game plan, one of the questions I ask them is, what are your goals? What are your end goals? Is it to drive traffic to your website? Is it to pick up the phone? Is it to sell a product? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because really the whole plan is based off of what that end goal is. And if we're not on the same page with what that end goal is, then the expectation will never be met, right? People are going to get upset and so I always remind them, okay, if this is still the end goal and that hasn't changed, then here's our game plan, you know. And like you said, it's always going to be changing. Social media is always changing. So the plan changes. However, if that end goal is kept in mind. So the biggest thing is I mean, depending on the company or the client, a lot of in the very beginning, they just want to brand themselves, which is ultimately what they need to be doing because they haven't been active on social media. And so for someone to just right off the get, you know, pick up the phone and call them or place that order or whatever it is, it's not likely. Right. But as long as they see that growth, then it really goes hand in hand.
Like a funnel, like, hey, we haven't sold anything, but like 15 people signed up for the email, which was our plan.
Well, I know that it's interesting because I know I keep referring to Roger, but it's just kind of been on the top of my mind. But it was interesting because I started doing his social media. I've been doing it now for almost 3 years. Holy shit. Yeah. Almost 3 years. And the first year, I mean, he'll tell anybody. But it's crazy, too, because now he's like, because whenever we're talking to other business owners, he'll say, you know, that first year, that's all it was just Kaycee just posting and creating content and just pushing all that content. And he's like, we didn't see anything, but we also didn't expect to. But now he's like, now it's blowing up and it's taking off. And you know, he's met people through social media that he's sold their houses. He's bought, you know, helped them list their house and things like that. So, and he'll be the first to say that it definitely takes that time to get to that point. But I look at it and I'm like, if he can sell a damn house on social media, you know what I mean? spending a ton of money on advertisements and things like that.
Right,
It is possible, but it's all about your approach. It's how you put that message out there and what your strategy is and your game plan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I show people a lot of those numbers, things like that. But really, there's always successes along the way that keep them, wanting. Okay, let's continue. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, happy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, that was an interesting question to me because, I've had to learn so I'm accounting and finance, that's
numbers.
my thing, right? I started an little accounting side gig.
Oh, cool.
I do a lot of accounting things with my friends, and so that's like ROI, right? If I'm meeting with a marketing department, the head of marketing, right? That's the first, we're going to go over the numbers, right? And so but it's nice that talking to you, and I've talked to other friends in social media, I had to take a few marketing classes in college, that I've been able to chill a little bit. Okay, so maybe we're not seeing sales from it, but let me look at our presence.
Yes,
let me look at my brand then. Yeah. If I can tell somebody, because there's a lot of power on a sales team too. Mm-hmm. If you're like, hey, we need to sell some stuff, and your sales team can point back at your website, or they can get, hey, check out my social media, you like this, you want to buy this product, look at this customer we had that posted about us, right? Yeah. So now, I've kind of chilled. I got it. Oh my God. I got it. Because you probably have...
I feel like people, it's really funny. They'll always say, oh, you do social media, so do you do websites? Do you do this? And I'm like, no, we do social media. It's very, very different. However, the two go hand in hand.
Right.
If you don't have a functioning website to lead people to that call to action to make that purchase or whatever it is, then there's gonna be a huge disconnect with your social media on all the other realms of your marketing attempts and things. So, I mean, that's been really just, I guess education is the biggest thing.
Is a real big thing. It's a good thing to make sure that you have, because like I said, before I was educated, it was all money, man. Yeah. Let's go. If I'm not getting money back.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely, and that's the goal, right? Is to make them money. That's the goal. Exactly.
And then also too, it's been cool meeting with business owners, because before I started the podcast, I had a lot of business owner friends, very similar. Mm-hmm. Where it's good to see people tell you no man, this takes time, you're not going to make $1 million your first year, or if you do, that wasn't where you were supposed to be. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
There's always such. So before because I'll ask a couple more questions and then I'll let you go. But how are you feeling in your journey as a business owner, as a social media marketer? How you feel about all that?
I love it. I really do. It's been fun. It's been obviously ups and downs along the way, but it's been a huge learning experience for me. Me personally, even before this, I was never real super active on social media as far as my personal life is concerned. Yeah. But like I said, it's so intriguing to me and fun and exciting to see the success that it has businesses have on there. Yeah. And so that really it's been so fun that way to just see all of the interaction and engagement. And I mean, to be honest, even this right here, sitting across from each other, we never would have ever met had it not been. I mean, how random is it that you messaged me on Instagram and now I'm here and it's oh, okay, it's just been crazy fun to see the different doors and opportunities that it opens when you're, on social media. Yeah. And so for me right now as a business owner, I feel like I'm in a good spot. I feel like, fortunately enough, it's so sad, the whole pandemic and everything that's going on in the world, but I'm fortunate enough that it has not affected my business. It's actually made me more busy because people can't be in front of their, clients or customers in person, right? So they need to stay top of mind through social media. So for me, I've been busy, instead of losing business. Yeah. But it's sad to see that there are businesses that have been hit by it and hurt by it, and it's hard to see. And so for me, I've been very, very fortunate, and I feel like I'm in a good spot. And I'm almost to that 5-year mark, damn it. So
good for you.
We'll see what the future brings. But right now, I'm just enjoying the moment.
Yeah, well, good for you. I always like hearing that too. But I also have heard that from a few marketers that it like made their business boom.
Yeah.
Well, because it had to. People had to pivot.
Yeah.
They had to pivot or die.
Yep, exactly. And so it's been that, and website development has been. I mean,
huge.
It's huge.
Again, like even for sales teams, like they had to change their website. They had to start making videos. They had to learn how to make videos. And who do you call when you don't know how to make a video, man?
Exactly. Exactly. So it's been interesting.
Well, that's great. So if people want to see your work, if people want to find you, like, where do they go?
So you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, The Concrete Room, CONKRETE, and then my website, theconcreteroom.com. All the information is right on there. So
right on, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you for being here with me. And I wish you all the best, and I hope you'll do great. I mean, it's freaking awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So thank you.
Thanks.